going to be showcasing a more accessible version of Whirlwind Dust Devils. This version is a bleed variant relying on the Gushing Wounds passive, which is this. Crit chance increases your bleed amount by 70% multiplicative damage, and also increased by 100% of your crit strike damage bonus. Obviously, the priority stats are crit and crit damage. The less priority stat is vulnerable damage for the Hemorrhage Paragon legendary node. However, you really don't have to play bleed if you don't want to. I think the non-bleed versus bleed are very comparable. You know, obviously the unconstrained version is going to have better upfront damage. Basically, this increases Berserking's damage bonus to 60% instead of 25%, which is a 35% X multiplier. It's impactful, but not amazing. The disadvantage of playing Gushing Wounds is you lose an aspect, which you either place on one of your two-handers or you can place it on your amulet. In this variant, I'm using Conceited in my amulet and Berserk Ripping in my two-hander, but you can have that flipped as well, and it'll work just fine. You can either get a weapon with vulnerable damage or really not prioritize it whatsoever. Your bleed amount is going to be very similar if you just went full crit damage. In my current setup, I have close to 3,500 crit damage, and it would be higher if I had a better, better roll on the tempering here. And if I didn't have vulnerable damage, obviously, and if I had GA crit damage on both of these one-handers, I do have GA crit damage on both of my two-handers at least. So it could get a little bit higher. I don't have GA crit damage on my ring. Anyway, let me go over the gear. You want a triple masterwork cooldown reduction, since this build is focusing on maximum cooldown reduction with the help of Rage of Haragath. You can read the aspect. You inflict the bleed. There's a lucky hit chance of reducing your cooldowns by 1 second. And yes, that applies to your ultimate as well. Optimally, if you're needing more crit chance, you want to focus Masterworking that. If you need more survivability, focus on damage reduction versus bleeding, or max life, or both. Fist of Fate are probably the best gloves for this build. However, you'll get pretty good results with legendary gloves as well. And then for pants, you'll use Ariat's Bearing because of Talic. Talic leaves behind Dust Devils that deal 22,000 damage while he whirlwinds. Compare that to our whirlwind aspect, it's basically double damage that Talic deals. The trade-off is his accuracy is pretty horrible sometimes. Like, he may not even aim his Dust Devils towards the target that you want. But when he does, the damage feels amazing. You will definitely notice it. The biggest benefit of using these pants is that they provide a good amount of resistances and cooldown reduction for your ultimate. But just those two reasons alone are not enough. And I really believe that the biggest strength is the damage that Talic provides with his Dust Devils. And for that reason, I combine these pants with this aspect of Ancestral Echoes, which gives us lucky hit chance to summon Talic when we whirlwind. You can have 2 Talics active at once. And the one that you summon with this aspect will whirlwind for several seconds. So the downtime is very minimal. The benefit is if you have 2 Talics that hit one target, they're going to deal insane damage to him. Okay, the rest of the gear, if you can get GA Warcry, that would be amazing. But if you're not rich, you're not going to be able to afford GA Warcry and GA move speed. So you can give up on that now. If you're pretty casual, semi-casual, or semi-sweaty like myself, this will be perfect. Just GA move speed or GA Warcry, one of the two. I think the implicit is best to have move speed on evade, since that benefits us the most. And if you want to experiment with stun, like aspect of retribution, you can temper chance to stun instead of chance to immobilize. If you want to experiment with the aspect of creeping death that increases your damage over time per crowd control on enemy, then I do recommend immobilize. But I can say after my own testing, that aspect isn't amazing and really probably the lowest priority damage aspect we can elect. So I'd like to get boots with stun on them and try aspect of retribution. That might work out better. Anyway, the rest of the gear is very, very easy to get. Crit damage for the normal affix, crit damage for your temper. Dust Devil size on the two-hander because we're putting aspect of Fierce Winds on a one-hander. Alternatively, you can put this aspect onto your amulet. That will give you 30% Dust Devil size. And then you'll have to get a one-hander, I think triple masterworked on Dust Devil size to get most of your damage from Dust Devil size, but it's not going to equal to 100%. And since we're not using Rama, we're not scaling our damage with maximum resource, I do recommend just having it on your two-hander. For the non-bleed version, you take Fierce Winds and you put it on two-hander, and then you basically don't have to worry too much about Dust Devil size. You just get that on a one-hander, but this is the bleed version. You put Dust Devil size on a two-hander and Fierce Winds on a one-hander. Aspect of Elements is a flex aspect. You can choose a different aspect. Like I suggested, you could use Aspect of Retribution if you were getting good amounts of stun in your build. Or you can elect to go with, I don't know, whatever else you think might be good for your build. Aspect of Elements has the benefit of also increasing your bleed damage while it's active for 7 seconds. And there are very few aspects that directly have a multiplicative effect on your bleed damage. On your second two-hander, you get Berserk Ripping, or you can use Aspect of Conceited there. On your ring, Ancestral Echoes, or you could put that on a one-hander. It does not matter. Starless Sky is pretty standard for this build. We need the cost reduction, and of course you get a 50% multiplier. The attack speed helps a little bit, but really not much, since the build requires constant spamming of your whirlwind ability. You have to tap it repeatedly in order to get more Dust Devils. And on your amulet, like we discussed, you can use Berserk Ripping or Conceited. Nothing fancy at all about my setup. That's the one thing I want to emphasize. If you look at the meta build for Whirlwind Dust Devils, these guys are getting chance to cast Dust Devils twice on their legendary two-hander, right? You have to get that shit to like max roll, and then you have to triple masterwork that shit. Here's my problem. I'm at 4.1k iron chunks and 20k rawhide because I've spent so many materials trying to fucking masterwork my weapons and failing over and over and over and over again. You know, I had to do a bunch of tormented boss rotations, and I'd recommend bosses that drop more weapons, unique weapons, if you're gonna farm iron chunks, because that is the only way. If you try to get iron chunks from Hell Ties or from Hordes, you're gonna be doing that shit forever. I don't recommend it. So tormented boss farming is the only way to get your iron chunks way up in order to get the tempering. I'm sorry, not the masterworks that you need for the grandfather Ramalotni's build. Uh, so that's the other thing about that build. You need 4 Ubers, Shaco, Starless, Tyraels, and Grandfather. And then basically everything else is the same as what I have. You know, they're using Fist of Fate, Shaco, the pants. I believe it's probably Tybalt. That makes sense. And everything else is the same. But this setup is really a lot more accessible for most of the population. Like if you had a Shaco and a Starless, but you don't want to farm a Grandfather or whatever, or you don't want to go through the masterworking nightmare of not only the masterworking nightmare, the tempering nightmare, because you got to get the fucking two-hand mace with the GA crit damage, and then you got to pray that you get Dust Devils cast twice on the higher end, because if you get you're like down to 2 out of 6 tempers or 2 out of 7 tempers, and you got the lowest roll on Dust Devils cast twice, and you still haven't even tempered crit damage, say goodbye to that fucking investment. Because unless you're the luckiest guy in the world, you're not going to hit that tempering. And then you gotta go on Diablo.trade and buy another two-hand mace and go through that process all over again. And some of us are just not streamers or not RMTing all day or whatever. You know, let me see if I could, no, it's not going to show up on the screen. But if I go to Diablo.trade right now and look up two-hand maces with uh, strength, max life, crit damage, all G8'd, you know, it's like 50 bill minimum. Like I can't afford that. I'm at 18 bill. For some people, that's a lot of money. But it's really not in the grand scheme of things. So, like that's maybe one good item for the end game. You know, for people like me, that's just asking a lot. You just want to try a build, get it off the ground running fast, and have fun, right? So enough of my yapping. I'm just gonna do a showcase. Bro, what the fuck is my luck right now? Yeah, I know I suck at hordes. I suck, I know. Fucking Desecrator, bro. This guy will one-shot you. Like, especially if he's not bleeding, he'll one-shot you. If he's not bleeding and close, he will kill you. That's one of the disadvantages of the build is that it's not using material, so it has conditional damage reduction. The other disadvantage is you gotta press your health potion sometimes. If you don't like that, then it's probably not the build for you. If you're still watching this, bless your heart. I'm gonna try to put chapters in the video so that no one has to watch each of these rounds. So fucking boring. Oh, what the fuck is this? Finally, something good. Bro, I think I stood in Desecrator's Hellfire. whoa, whoa, whoa. This game mode has the most annoying fucking mobs imaginable. I swear. Like, especially those ballistas. Like, why the fuck do a million ballistas get summoned in this game mode? Oh my. Speaking of ballistas, oh gosh. Uh, doesn't really help. The reason is we don't need any more cooldown reduction, and attack speed doesn't really do much for damage. I mean, it's fun. You do get a little bit more cooldown, but I kind of wanted to show the console without it, just in case there are doubts about it. The build's efficacy. I didn't want anyone to say it's because I had invigoration. I do that honestly. Like when someone shows me their build and their highlight is an invigoration council kill, I'm like, bro, that's a bait ass build. So I'm not gonna do that. Almost got fucked. Uh, my gosh, the fucking crossbows. Alright, I want to point out that I have pretty low life. Did that pretty comfortably, although there were some scary moments. I recommend that you get two-handers with GA life on them, GA life on everything, on all your weapons, and it's gonna feel so much better. Oh, this is like one of the worst combinations possible because they stay apart the entire time. Look at this shit. Look at this shit, bro. This is not fucking enjoyable. My game plan is usually to weaken them all, and then try to kill them at close to the same time. Fucking Gelb. Gelb's a little bitch. So is Ismail. He's a motherfucker. They're both pieces of shit. Fortunately, we didn't get the Maelstrom guy. He's the ultimate motherfucker, in my opinion. But man, this was lucky. They all grouped up for me. All right, that's the build. Deathless. You know, my ether gains were weak as fuck. I know that, but I also got really unlucky with some of the picks. Not gonna lie. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll reply. I'm not a content creator. I'm just someone who wanted to share my ideas. This isn't really a build guide, but like a build showcase. Hopefully, you glean some of your own unique ideas and bring them into your own build. That's my number one message. I just want to empower everyone to create something that's unique to yourself and not be a sheep that relies on streamers to tell you how to play, that if you do that, I promise you're going to have the least rewarding gameplay experience possible. But if you come up with your own ideas and troubleshoot through your problems yourself and find solutions yourself, now that's not to say you can't look at what other people are doing and get ideas from them. No. Obviously, I'm saying you can do that, but if you go through that journey yourself, I promise you, you'll have a much more rewarding experience in Diablo 4 rather than copying what Rob's doing or what Dagon did, who copied it from this guy, who copied it from that guy. And let me be honest, everyone that played Whirlwind Dust Devils played Ramaladni's grandfather from day fucking one. Okay, just because some guy put Locran's amulet on doesn't really make that setup unique. Everyone's been fucking playing that build. And you can play that build. And, if I ever get enough fucking iron chunks, I will play that build just to try it, just to hit like those big dick damage dust devils. Who doesn't want to do that? But honestly, that's not going to be for many of you players unless you're a fucking hardcore nerd. You're not going to have the iron chunks to do it. Promise you. So, if you're not like them, get some ideas for my build, and I think you'll be okay and you'll have fun. Take it easy.